And that was No Matter What, 1970, one of the great hits, top 10 hit in the UK and Canada for my guest at this time, part of the band Badfinger. And that was off the album No Dice. With me right now from Badfinger, Bob Jackson. Bob, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good, Sam. Yeah, good to be here, mate.
Now, we've had some conversations getting set up for this interview, so you know I'm a fan. And you know that I like most of the hits, but I like a lot of your stuff that is getting played. But I'm not the only one. There are some pretty famous people that think you're pretty cool too. How does it feel to have people like Paul McCartney talk to about your music the way that he does?
Well, Paul and George and, the Beatles in general were a great influence because the band was signed to the Apple label. And so I guess obviously they saw something in the band in those early days. So of course it's very nice, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, and for me, I found in doing my research, and it was something that I kind of knew, but I wasn't positive of it. Because my first taste of Badfinger was when I was a young man. My mom owned a restaurant, and the music was in the jukebox, so I got to hear the songs while my mom was working with my dad in the restaurant, and uh, it was just a great childhood memory. So when I hear the songs like "Come and Get It," and of course, "No Matter What," it brings me back to a time. Uh, in your experience with as a member of Badfinger, is that how you feel about the music that you play each and every night for the fans?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, obviously the band has a very long catalogue. Um, and of course, it does take you back to the time. Yeah, it's very evocative, isn't it, of that era? Um, yeah, very much so. And I still enjoy all that stuff. You know what I mean? It
Oh,
isn't
me
like
too.
it isn't like I've outgrown that. That's my kind of taste in music. I came up listening to the Beatles and going to see all those early bands in small clubs, by the way, a lot of them. Yeah, in the
So,
UK.
when you were a young man, um, who influenced you other than the Beatles? Who were some of the bands that influenced you at the time? Because you were in Wales, or were you in the UK?
I'm in the UK. Yeah.
So who influenced you? The Rolling Stones, as an example, maybe the Who.
Yeah, all those people. And as I said, I saw a lot of those people, sort of, bands of the time live. The ones I particularly liked, well, first of all, I guess I had a love of melody and harmony, but I also kind of like blues and the heavier side of things. So I had this mixed thing. So in the early days, I guess the Kinks, who I saw live a couple of times, the Who, who I saw. Hendrix, of course, was a big influence. I thought he was great. I mean, I'm really primarily a keyboard player, but he was so good on guitar. I can remember coming out saying that guy wants me, make me give up. He's just so out there. So a lot of bands, yeah, lots and lots. Too many to mention, really.
Now you had a good run from the original career that ended in 1984. And at that time, I'm assuming that you all thought, well, this is it for live touring. Maybe we'll get together for a reunion at some point. Maybe we'll do some shows. And then 2015 rolls around, and tell us about how the band got back together.
Well, the band didn't really get back together
Oh, sorry, I
fully.
should clarify that as the new connotation of the band.
Right, okay, okay. Yes, because we'd lost a couple of members throughout the years. After Pete went, Tommy and I carried on for many years, still touring in the States. Even though we lived in the UK, we used to go over and tour. And then Tommy sadly died. which left me and Mike, the drummer. So we carried on. We got an ex-member in, Joey Molland. We invited him back in, and again we did some more touring. And then it kind of split apart at that point, and nothing much happened for several years, really, because of course we'd lost two members. Mike then passed away. So, it was difficult. All this time, by the way, I'd been chasing an album that we'd recorded back in '74 that had never been released by the record company, Warner Brothers. And over the many years, I mean, it sounds crazy really, but over 50 years, I've been always trying to track down these tapes because we never did get a proper copy of the tapes. They were never mixed and mastered. So this was always an ongoing thing with me. So right up until about the year 2000, I thought, there's no chance. I don't know what will happen with Badfinger. I formed my own Badfinger here in the UK and started touring that. But I was always on the hunt, as I said, the search for these past tapes, these albums, these master tapes. Anyway, happily, the big news is managed to find them. So that's kind of where we are now.
And and we'll talk about that, where we wound up in a little bit, because I think it's something very cool. So we've gotten to the point now that we're into the 2000s.
Yeah.
And you've been performing a little bit as Badfinger UK. Right. Have you been writing at this time as well and doing some releasing of albums as Badfinger UK or just as Bob Jackson even?
Yeah, no release of any records. I have been writing. I did put a track, one of mine, on the Badfinger UK website that people can get if they go to badfingeruk.com. They can download that track for free. It's like a freebie. But we didn't actually do any formal recording or releasing of songs, no.
So we fast forward to 2015, and it's been 30 years since you toured or had new material, and you got together for a monumental theater tour to pay tribute to Pete Ham and Tommy Evans and Mike Gibbons, and you found yourself playing to over 20,000 fans at shows. How did it feel to play for that kind of a crowd after so long being away?
Well, as you might imagine, it was very, very exciting. And for me personally, obviously, I'd been on this journey for a long time. So, the whole kind of nostalgia and emotional side of it was very deep in me. So it wasn't just a case of going and playing a few songs. I mean, it really kind of meant something to me to relaunch the whole Badfinger brand again. It was great. It was really good, very joyful, and a great reaction, by the way, from people, both young and old, which kind of surprised me, really. A lot of younger people would come and go, "Oh, I love those songs,"
Yeah,
So,
that's the reaction that I get from a lot of the stuff that I play on my morning. I do a 5-hour morning show as well as this show, and when I play some of the music that I play on the show, because I play a lot of 70s stuff, like classic Rolling Stones, your music, stuff from the Beatles, and a lot of people, when they write in for requests and things, they say, like, how is this music lasting so long? Why is it resonating? Why do you think that the music of Badfinger resonates like it does?
well, that's a difficult thing to answer yourself, really. But I would say all of the music around the 60s period, when there was that explosion of culture, from the Beatles onward, has resonated because it was very strong melodically. The top line, the tune was really important to people. we've moved into an era now where the top line is less important. We've moved into an era where dance and in enjoying moving to music is more than it was back in those days. People used to sit cross-legged and listen very carefully to music. It was more of an intellectual kind of thing, whereas now obviously it's a dance market, so it's a different thing nowadays. But I think that's why it has lasted the test of time, because it's memorable, memorable songs with strong melody.
That's true. And it must be a really good feeling, because in your heyday, you had these people come and see you perform. And now some of those same people are bringing their kids to see you perform. So it must be cool to see mom or dad or both with their teenage son or their adult son, and hearing your music and watching them all enjoying themselves. It must be a great feeling to know that you're resonating not in just one generation, but in a second generation as well. How does that make you feel that you're still doing as well as you are?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic feeling. And yeah, I mean, you can't, again, difficult to describe, but it's very fulfilling. I suppose that's the best word to use, fulfilling, to know that the music has spanned, all those generations. And I think Badfinger in particular, I think we're really lucky to still have a following all these years later, when for decades really we haven't done much at all. But the strength of the band, as I say, is in those songs. So it's like that legacy of music has kind of carried us through, even though we haven't been doing a lot really until now, of course. But no, it's great. It's great, man.
Yeah, and you guys are back, I would say, full force, not in the sense of the band's back full force, but the music is back full force. And
Yeah.
there seems to be a resurgence of 70s and 80s music. How do you feel about that? And what do you think of that term that everyone's using these days, yacht rock?
I don't know how I feel about that term. I mean, it's just another kind of moniker that someone's decided to put on it. I guess I can only kind of repeat my last answer, which was, it's great that for all the bands, never mind just us, but it's great that the strength of the songs and the lyrics and so on and so forth have lasted through the years. It's obviously it's very gratifying,
Yeah.
So I'm delighted about it, of course.
Yeah, and you've had some great hits over the run of the band. Come and Get It, which was top 10 in the UK, the United States, and Canada, no matter what, which we played earlier. Day After Day, Without You, which I believe was #1 worldwide, and was also covered by a few other artists as well. That's got to be cool to have other artists enjoy your music so much that they want to give you their take on your song.
Well, really, those were the hits by the other artists. I mean, it's had 100 and something different covers, I believe. And they took it to a place where I wasn't in the band at that time when Without You was done. But other artists like Harry Nilsson, like Mariah Carey, and many, many more took that song to a place that the band never envisaged it would go, and made it like a big production, a very emotional, dramatic thing. And my goodness, it worked, and that's a classic song. Pete Hammond, Tommy Evans wrote that, and it's such a great song. Everyone attests to that. I think McCartney said it's the killer song of all time.
Yes.
So I'm not going to argue with that.
Yeah, I guess you can't argue with him. After all, he is who he is. Now, one of the things that I want to know is, what is Bob Jackson's favorite Badfinger song?
Oh,
So hard, isn't it? It's like which
There,
child's your
there,
favorite?
there's a lot of them. There's an awful lot of them. I think one of my favourites is yeah. Let me think. I think one of my favourites is Pete's "Take It All." He wrote a song called "Take It All," and I think the lyric is just a lovely, lovely lyric about being unselfish, about forgiveness. Um, yeah, I think that's probably my best. Yeah, my favorite. I mean, not my best. That's my favorite. I think above all.
How are the crowds that you're going and performing in front of now? You're doing shows in Wales, you in the UK and Europe most of the time. How are the crowds now? Are you still getting good crowds and having a great time doing it?
No, because we're not currently gigging at the moment, and we haven't been for a little while.
Oh,
So
that's
no
too bad. So
show wise,
are
we're
there going to
not.
be shows coming up to in the new year? Are you planning on touring again?
That really depends on the success of our latest release.
And what do you say we talk about that release? Sound like an idea?
Why not?
This is the infamous song album that you took a long time getting your hands on. Now, when you finally, as we mentioned earlier, you tried for many, many years to get the album and were unable to get it. They didn't mix it or anything like that. When you got it in your hands, was it ready to go, or did you have to work on it yourself along with others to get the album ready for release?
Yeah, it wasn't ready to go. There was an incredible amount of work to do. Myself and a close friend of mine, Andy Nixon, who's a very talented guy in his own right. I brought him on board, and together we had to start from afresh, because nothing had been done in the studio other than recording. We hadn't had time to mix while we were in the studio, and straight afterwards, because of various complications, business complications, Warner Brothers, the record label, pulled the album. So it never actually saw the light of day back in '74. And for many, many years, I thought everything was lost. I thought, well, there's no chance it'll ever happen. It won't resurface. In fact, over many years, I've been told that those recordings had been stolen or missing or lost or whatever. They just weren't around anymore. And it was only about a year ago that I managed to get my hands on them. And I also, another big hurdle was I managed to get over the legal hurdles that got me to a stage where I could, yeah, now it's possible. Maybe something can be done. So yeah, it took a lot of work, with cleaning everything up and remixing and mastering. Yeah, a lot of work, but
So
it's been worth it.
it sounds like it was almost like starting from scratch.
Yeah, it
Other
was.
except with the exception of the recording of the songs, it sounds like you did everything else yourselves, which is you know reason for applause on its own. And I have a copy of the album. It's out now, and we'll talk about how
Mhm.
to get it in a moment. But I was sent a copy, and I had a chance to listen to it. It's a great album. I can't understand why Warner didn't want to put it out, but that's just a conversation for another day. Um, let's talk about some of the tracks on the album. Tell us about the
Okay.
album and how the album first came about.
Well, the album came about because it's a strange, complicated story. So I'll try and keep it, simple as possible. What happened was we'd done a tour in the UK in '74 with all five members, including me. And then after the tour, we all thought we were due for a little break, of 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. But after only I think it was a week or so, we got marching orders from our manager who said, "You've got to go into the studio now." And it's like, really? Why the urgency? He wasn't really forthcoming about what the reasons were, but we kind of knew deep down he just wanted the next advance on the album. So he booked some time and said, "Get in there, go and do it." You know, he only booked, I think it was 12 days in total at Apple in Savile Row, and that was it. It was very much a kind of job that had to be got together and completed very quickly with no leeway. So we went in. It was a very short time to prepare, even writing the songs, you know. So the whole thing was an incredible rush, and we were very kind of confused in our own minds about why we were doing it. It didn't feel right. And almost, you know, as soon as we'd finished it, the manager tried to get the advance on it, and Warner Brothers, and by the way, he stole a load of money out of an escrow account. So Warner's at that point, that was part of their rejection of the album. It's like, wait a minute, guys, you can't do that. But of course, they had to sue the whole corporation that we were all involved in. They couldn't just sue the manager because we were all tied together legally. So that's why it all fell apart, really.
But that's, I guess, if something's going to be worthwhile, you got to have a little bump in the road, and you had your bump in the road with the legal ramifications of the album and that. Now that you have it in your hands, you got it mixed, it's ready to go. It came out just this past couple weeks, and we got the first single released just about 10 days ago. And tell us about how that became the release, because I got a message from your management of a different song off the album altogether, and then it was changed. Well, what happened? Have you decided to save the 1A song for later release?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It was very difficult to choose a single. There was never a single in mind 50 years ago when we did it, because of all the business shenanigans and everything we're going. There wasn't time to think about it. But having mixed and mastered it, and then sort of re-examining, well, what should we put out as something to promote the band? There's a lot of ways we could have gone, because Badfinger has never been just one style. A bit like the Beatles template, really. You know, there can be ballads, rockers, heavy stuff, rock and roll, all kinds of things. So it's difficult to choose one song that represents the whole album. In the end, finally, we thought that Pete's Lay Me Down was perhaps the most representative track of what we did at that time. So hence, yeah, we went with that one, and it's a great little rocker, you know. So, yeah. But yes, we'll probably put another one out, you know, following this at some point.
Oh, good. I was going to get to that question in a few minutes. What's the name of the album, and how can people get it?
It's called Head First. It's on Wyatt and T Records, and it's coming out December the 13th. Let's hope that's not an omen.
I was just going to say, it's a Friday.
Yeah, Friday the 13th, yeah. But it'll be all right, folks. Yeah, it's so you can get it. It should be, you should see it on Amazon and various other retailers. And for UK listeners, we're selling it on our Badfinger UK website. You can come and get it there.
Nice.
In fact, in fact, at the moment, you can pre-order it up until release date. So yeah, so there's all kinds of ways you can get it. Yeah.
Now the song that you've chosen is "Lay Me Down,"
Uh-huh.
Great track. We played it last Monday as our big show artist of the day, New Music Monday, and that was a lot of fun to play. We're going to play it in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that, just a couple things. First off, I want to thank you for taking some time for me. It is truly an honor. I've been trying for a long time to get a hold of the band to have them on my
Right.
show. You guys, unfortunately, I wanted you back in my like my 10th episode, but I'll take you at 125. This is my 125th episode, and I'm very happy that you are part of it. And I want
Right.
to
Well,
thank
thank you for
you.
that. Yeah.
And I want to remind the listeners to be sure and check out the Badfinger UK website. Remember, it's Badfinger UK there, kids. So be sure and check it out. It is a great site. And I want to thank Bob Jackson for taking some time for me. I hope you had a good time today. I see you're getting ready for Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday, safe, happy, and I hope that you guys get on the road in the new year. And I look forward to talking to you again. And would you do me a favor and please introduce the song?
Yeah, sure. And thank you, Sam, for your support, man. Been good to talk to you. Okay,
More
okay.
like
Well, next up,
nagging.
next up, this is Badfinger with a 50-year-old song. So it's the newest, oldest song around, and it's called "Lay Me Down."